Hello, it is Sunday, January 11th, 2026. And it's been a while since I've talked to you. I just haven't found anything inspirational, I guess, inspirational enough to me. Maybe it's because of all the horrible stuff that's going on right now. Just makes it hard to see the sacredness in the world, the beauty of what's going on. But it's partly what we need to do is to intentionally look for that, to remind us that there is good in the world and that we are part of it and interwoven with it, and we're not alone. Anyway, I did come across today a daily meditation from Richard Rohr's organization, Center for Action and Contemplation. And it was interesting, and I think you might find it interesting too. So, while it is a decidedly Christian text, again with Richard Rohr's approach, I think it is beyond being a religious text in general, utilizing, of course, Christian and Jewish, Hebrew scriptures, but relating to them in a way that I think anyone of any or no faith tradition can really understand and appreciate, and give us some things to think about. So the meditation for today is on the feast of the baptism of Jesus, and it's entitled "A Brilliant Start." And the editors of the meditation write, Father Richard Rohr describes how the creation story found in the book of Genesis is good news. And these are Rohr's words. Genesis is the first book in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. It's neither the oldest nor the first Jewish scripture written down, but its brilliance gets us off to a very good start. The Genesis creation story is really quite extraordinary when compared to other creation stories of its time. Some people envision creation happening by spontaneous combustion, or emerging out of a hole in the ground, or through a mythological figure, or even through an act of violence. But our creation story declares that we were created in the very image and likeness of God and out of generative love. And it references Genesis chapter 1, verses 27 and chapter 9, verse 6. This starts us out on an absolutely positive and hopeful foundation. The first act of divine revelation is creation itself. The very first Bible is nature, which was written about 13.8 billion years ago, at the moment that we call the Big Bang, long before the Bible of words. Rohr says God initially speaks through what is, as we see Paul affirming in Romans chapter 1, verse 20. Ever since God created the world, God's everlasting power and deity, however invisible, have been there for the mind to see in the things God has made. The biblical account tells us God creates the world developmentally over 6 days, almost as if there were an ancient intuition of what we would eventually call evolution. Clearly, creation happened over time. The only strict theological assertion of the Genesis story is that God started it all. The exact how, when, and where is not the author's concern. This creation story, which some modern scholars think was written down nearly 500 years before Jesus lived, has no intention or ability to be a scientific account. It's an inspired account of the source, meaning, and original goodness of creation. Thus, it is indeed true. Both Western rationalists and religious fundamentalists must stop confusing true with that which is literal, chronological, or visible to the narrow spectrum of the human eye. Many assume the Bible is an exact snapshot, as if caught on camera, of God's involvement on earth. But if God needed such literalism, God would have waited for the 19th century of the Common Era to start talking and revealing through infallible technology. Science often affirms what were for centuries the highly suspect intuitions of the scriptures and mystics. We now take it for granted that everything in the universe is deeply connected and linked, even light itself, which interestingly is the first act of creation, Genesis chapter 1, verse 3. Objects, even galaxies, throughout the entire known universe are in orbits and cycle around something else. There is no such thing in the whole universe as autonomy. It doesn't exist. That's the illusion of the modern individualistic West, which imagines the autonomous self to be the basic building block and the true seer. I mean, lots of thoughts went through my mind as I was reading this. And even when I was a practicing Christian, I never assumed that the biblical stories were literal. I have a scientific background, and but actually, the science does when you look at the science, it still introduces great wonder and awe at the world and questions that are unanswerable, which is where I think belief systems have their origin, and is people struggling to make sense of it all, of what they see, what they hear, what they feel. And science has done nothing to really diminish that. Just thinking about the Big Bang itself, what started it? What existed before the Big Bang? How did it exist? Where did it come from? All those kinds of questions, which scientists are still struggling to try to understand. And there's different theories, but they're just theories at this point. So no matter what your belief system is, the universe is an incredible system. But it is a system where everything is interdependent upon the other. And the same is true of our lives as well. We don't live in a vacuum. We don't exist in a vacuum. We can't exist in a vacuum. We are part of an integrated whole. And we truly can't live until we recognize that and understand that all of our lives are interconnected. And I think the thought of being autonomous or being individual, even the Christian fundamentalist concept of individual salvation, I think is what is at the heart of the violence and the disruption that's occurring around us on a daily basis. People are ignorant of or decidedly against understanding the connection of our lives with those around us. Anyway, so those are some of the thoughts that went through my head, and thinking about creation itself and what the Big Bang means, and it is just a theory, but all the questions that even the science creates still makes me wonder and curious about what's going on in the world. And it's also a reminder for me to stop and pause and just admire, look out the window or go for a walk and listen and feel and smell and see all of what's around us. Look up at the sky and be at awe in the beauty of the sun and the clouds and the nature all around us. The divinity that exists in the world around us. It's a constant reminder to stop just looking at ourselves and start looking at our relationships and how we interact with one another. So anyway, those are some of the thoughts that were running through my head as I was reading this, and I'm hoping that this gives you something else to think about, to wonder about, to explore, and to be open about, understanding also other people's belief systems, understanding that there are multiple creation stories. I mean, even in the Bible, there are two separate creation stories, chapter 1 and chapter 2, which are different. And when you begin to compare the two, you can see the differences, which I think is an indication that it is a story, an inspired account of the source, meaning, and origin and goodness of creation, as Richard Rohr writes. And we really do need to stop confusing truth with that which is literal, chronological, or visible to the narrow spectrum of the human eye. We don't know what we don't know, and so be open to understanding and be open to awe and wonder in the world. Anyway, probably rambling a bit, but I hope that gives you some things to think about, and open yourself up to the relationships in which your life is intertwined, and continue to build good relationships and help other people to see our common interrelated life and how interconnected we are with one another and with all of creation, with the entire universe. We all revolve around one another, just as all the different galaxies and solar systems and universe revolves around everything in it. Anyway, hope you have a good day. Hope this gives you something to think about, and hope it gives you something to hold on to continue to build community in our world.